Hey guys, I got working on an N14 again. This one's seized up, so I went underneath it yesterday, and I found number 5 rod bearing, totally destroyed. So it had seized up. You could see it just look off, like there's no oil residue on that. So that's why we pulled it first. So when I stuffed the piston up to gain some clearance, and it still won't turn over. So I don't know which of these are the issues. We pulled this number 6 main cap, and it doesn't really look perfect either, but I got to get that bearing out of there and have a look and see. And then, yeah, we're just gonna kind of keep on going until we find out the culprit. I guess I'm just gonna take all these caps down except for number 1 and 7 until basically I find the problem. I'll just keep pulling the caps, and then I'll check it and see if it turns over, etc., until it turns over. And then whichever one that is, that'll be our culprit. But at this point, engine's coming out anyways. More than likely we'll put a running engine in it, a used runner. I guess it's going to come down to how much the customer wants to spend and what the availability is. So anyway, I'll try to set you up somewhere under here and try to show what I'm doing here, and try to see what the fault will be. Seeing a little bit of water perhaps on here. More than likely condensation. This thing was all across the fold yesterday, and we drug it in here, so it's probably frost from doing that. So anyway, let's get to it. This little toolbox that I got here, I actually bought this off of one of my old co-workers, and built that little frame around the bottom so it's got fork pockets. And the idea is basically, if my service truck ever breaks down, or I got a guy working with me that wants to do some quick and dirty jobs, maybe some AC jobs or changing out hydraulic lines or something, then this is kind of a pre-loaded, ready to go toolbox. Except it ain't got a whole ton in it, but I mean it's got most of what you need. I'm kind of working on getting a full set of sockets on there. And but I mean, yeah, it's got all your ratchets and stuff. A couple of wrenches. I got better wrench rails to put in it. Ones that don't leave your wrenches all over the place after you get where you're going. So, and then yeah, with cordless tools, it's definitely a huge downgrade from the service truck, but it works for for what it's built for. This morning I went and did a job service call on a Kenworth W900, the C15 Assert, however you want to say it. And got that done, changed one injector, number 2, and got that running good. And then I'm supposed to do a clutch job on an old Mack that this farmer's got, but I mean my shop's kind of tied up at the moment, and didn't really want something in here that I maybe ain't gonna get parts for or what have you. So I told him, I'd like to just rather do it at his shop, and then whatever. But he said, oh well, he doesn't want to do it there right now because it's so cold out that he doesn't want to tie up his shop neither. So then instead of doing that, I just came back here. So yeah, now I'm just working on this and once I get this one apart and figured out, then I'm probably gonna jump back on that cat. I wanna get it done. See, I'm assuming this has got an issue, this bearing, because I can't get the fucking thing out. Not good. Look at this here in the oil galley. That's supposed to be a hole. She's just plugged right off. That's too bad. These are good engines. Always sad to see them come to the end of their life, but that is what it is, I guess. The trouble with these things is all the good ones are still running, and all the bad ones are usually beyond repair, like this one's probably going to be. Well, I may as well pull all of them. This one looked the best of all of them so far. That one's fucked too. So So I wonder why that hole's plugged. Because I mean, that's kind of got to be our problem. That's probably, well, I'd have to look at, on QuickServe to look at the oil circuitry, but I assume that that plugged off, and that's how that journal gets oil. So that journal quit getting oil, but I assume it got plugged off from bearing material from one of the other mains, or that main that is plugged itself. And the reason that quit getting oil maybe is the pump failed. I don't really know. Alrighty. Guess that's as far as we will maybe go. I think our the main thing stopping us from turning right now must be this main. I'm not too sure. It's about the only thing I could think of. I guess I'll try and turn it over now and see. Yeah. I'm assuming that it still ain't gonna turn. But I guess we'll see. Anyway, that's as far as that's gonna come apart. For now, on the bottom end, I mean, we already know that the thing has to come out entirely. You're more than likely gonna be better off finding a used runner, because by the time you fix this, I mean, I just don't think it'd be cost effective. When I first seen this rod bearing failed, I thought, oh boy, because then you could do a crank and a connecting rod, and that'd be it. But with the main bearings being spun and not, I mean, you're done. You're pretty much done. So that's unfortunate. But what do you do? Well, guys, yesterday I got the hood taken off. We still don't know 100% what route we're going with the repair on this. Judging by the sounds of it, talking with the customer, we're probably gonna end up fixing it. Been really busy. We've got a clutch to do on this truck, and we did a transmission yesterday, or I went and pulled it out. It was supposed to be just a clutch, because the customer was reporting that it was slipping. This is kind of a big fleet here nearby where I live, and the transmission was just shit in it. I pulled the PTO off to look up in there, and one of the gears on the main shaft was just totally smooth. So I'm assuming that was his slip that he was feeling. So yeah, the release bearing was the original issue why they figured the clutch was bad, because you could just hear it growling away in there, and it's drier than a popcorn fart. So anyway, went to think that I was doing a clutch and ended up doing a transmission. So now we're just waiting on parts for that one. So I'm gonna jump on this here. Hey guys, well, my filming on this has not been very good, so I apologize for that. It's just been pretty damn chaotic around here. I've had multiple jobs for an outfit around here that's drilling helium. We had a lot of welding jobs and stuff to do for them, and I've had multiple clutch jobs to do. This is a clutch job here. So anyway, this thing I believe is going to be coming out tomorrow morning. I got my spreader bar here for that. I had to drop the transmission on this one because typically I would just unbolt the flywheel or the clutch from the flywheel, and then you'd only be sticking out of the input shaft like, you know, an inch or whatever. So, but this one, because it's seized solid, I couldn't bar it over to get the clutch bolts loose through that inspection cover. So I had to pull the clutch because there's not enough room for me to come forward with this engine really before we hit this frame piece. So I wouldn't have been able to get out of the transmission input shaft in that amount of time with that amount of space. So basically I had to drop the transmission in order to come out far enough. So, but now because this is an extended hood, should be able to just pull it basically straight up and out of there. So it should be a real easy pull. Pretty much got it stripped down now far enough. Everything on the outside's off, so once it's on the floor, I'll pull the heads and the camshaft and all that stuff, and then yeah, we'll get her down to bare block and send her away to the machine shop. And I see here I got a huge mess. This little stand that I got for putting these engines on, I obviously need to build an oil catch on the bottom side of it because, well, this isn't a very good system. So I guess I'll get some floor dry laid down here now, and that'll be step one for today. Well, got the engine out. Go ahead and get it stripped down. strip down yet, but we're getting pretty damn close. So as of this morning, the engine was still in the truck. My crane probably would have lifted it, but I wouldn't have been able to really do much with it, like once it's out. Like, I don't have the mobility with my crane. I can mostly just go up and, you know, do a little bit of a swing, you know, or if I parked here, I could, you know, come up and out and then down, but I can't go off the side very far, just because of the outriggers that I built. They're not very good. So anyway, because of that, I had a local guy coming. He's got a nice picker on his truck. It's not a knuckle boom. I don't know what you'd call it. It's a lot like my crane, but better, more better. So anyway, I'm probably just gonna time lapse all that we did today, just because me and Buddy there were chit-chatting and stuff, and he's a kid that works with me, and unfortunately he is taken off. I guess he wants to go be a farmer, so he's gonna go work for a guy doing that. And but anyway, right now I'm trying to pull these liners, but the threads on here are starting to get all galled up and shitty from doing so many of these. So I'm gonna get a grade 8 piece and some grade 8 nuts and just retry this here in the morning. But it's coming apart okay so far. This cylinder anyway, the counterbore ledge looks good. Everything else looked decent. Yeah, I mean, things are okay. So one thing to note on these N14s is this is a shim, not a gasket. Well, it's a gasket too, but these are all shims on all three of these. So basically, so basically there is cam follower boxes, okay, and this is what they look like, and they ride, they bolt to the side of the block there, and the push tubes ride inside of those, and they'll run your rockers. So this is your injector lobe, okay? So what'll happen is guys will have a leak on these, which is not uncommon whatsoever, but then they'll basically peel this old gasket off, silicone it or something, put it back on, and then their engine runs like shit. And the reason for that is these are specific thickness dependent on your engine, and there's a big fancy tool that you need in order to properly set those up. And I don't have the tool, so like I kind of do this. I just mic it after I get it off and mark the cylinder that they are. They're all marked for which side of the block they went on. And then I just tie the gasket, if it doesn't come off like these ones have, to it. So all these came out at 42, and it's even marked on this particular gasket, but they're not always marked like that, depending whose gaskets you got. So pretty well got everything top end related off of here. Pistons are down there. This is one more up in there. So the one bad journal, that's the first liner. I got a whole pile of stuff on the back here. It just never ends. Doing an out of frame like this is really a lot more work than a person thinks. What we got left next, so we can't really get the front cover off until we get the engine supported a little differently. So we'll probably just jack it up with a block or something, pull the engine mount, the cover, pull the cam, pull all the rest of the gear train, and then I got to figure out what I'm going to do. We got to flip it. It needs to it needs to end up upside down so that I can pull the crank out of it. And it's just never a very fun thing to do. It's super awkward. I know if I had an engine, why am I drawing a blank? An engine stand, you know, then it would be no big deal, but it's just, I mean, that's a whole nother deal in itself to have one of those. So I don't have one, I ain't getting one, and that's the way it's gonna be. But I'll probably grab it with my crane, you know, have a chain on one side and a come along on the other, and we'll just let it slowly rotate, set her on her ass there, and then do the same thing again, and that'll work all right. Well guys, I dropped the ball again. Not a very good YouTuber, I guess. I really wanted to film taking the bottom end of this apart, like the crank and stuff, so you guys could see the mains, but well, my crane, you can see there, that's where it's stuck. I basically only got like half the functions. I can rotate each way, and I can continue to go up, but I can't come down. I can't boom out. I can't go down with the cable. It's just, I wanted to basically flip the engine over, and then I could, you know, lift the crank up is how I'd like to do it, but the crane decided to take the day off, which is pretty typical of that Cobra. I'm getting pretty freaking tired of it, to be honest with you. I don't know if I use my crane way more than a lot of people, and maybe the electric over hydraulic isn't the answer for that much use. I'm not 100% sure, but talking with Cobra and some of the troubleshooting I did before, I believe that this box here, this is like the radio receiver, so this is what turns on the motor and what signals to the solenoids and stuff, and I'm pretty sure that's what's bad, because they said if it works good after the truck's inside for a while, then you know, once it's in a high moisture area for a while, it doesn't work anymore. Then it's usually that piece there. So pretty much, I'm pretty sure that's what the problem is, and I don't know. I'm gonna wait and see if the problem gets better once it dries up a bit. I might take it off, put it in some rice or something. But that's $2,600, that little thing there, so kind of a stinger, but what do you do? Anyway, so I couldn't flip the engine over, so basically we kind of blocked it up like here and here, and then we just took the main bolts loose and let the crank drop down onto the blocks, which it would never do with a crank that we're going to use again, but this one's garbage, so no big deal. So then we lifted the engine off of there. I just pulled the sensors and fittings out so that the machine shop doesn't have a fit and have to take it apart. So this bearing here, I don't know if this was like the main failure or what, but it's glued on there. I cannot get that bearing out of there. So that was the one that spun, and that was the one that was locked right up, and this was the number 5 journal. So those are the two worst ones, but I mean, as you can see, there's not a single main that's any good. They get better the closer we get to the front of the engine, but you know, like even that, if I was rebuilding this, you'd have to at least polish this crank. So anyway, it's going to be getting a new crank, providing the quote comes out to be, you know, beneficial for us to go this route still. But I think it will be, considering a reman, or yeah, a reman short block assembly is is $22,000. So anyway, these liners were really hard to pull out of there. I ended up getting a 3/4 inch fine thread chunk of ready rod, and they took a lot more effort than normal to get them out of there, but they all did come eventually. So the next stop for this thing is to the machine shop, and yeah, we'll get a crank. The camshaft's good. The bearings are definitely worn, so I'm sure the machine shop's gonna put a set of those in for me. I don't know what all I need for parts yet. I haven't really looked. These liners, like the piston surface looks halfway decent, but there's some pitting starting on a few of them, and well, I just don't know if it pays to reuse them. Like they're, yeah. Yeah, they got some scoring and I don't know. They're definitely not perfect. I think they'll be getting replaced. Plus, I didn't like how, well, that's no big deal, but I mean, there was so much force on the bottom side of these to pull them out of there, which I'm sure it's fine, but like it all feels fine, but it just makes me a little leery anyway when you're pulling that hard on them. But anyway, and then here's all the parts on the tree. So pistons, the connecting rods, number 5 there, the one standing up, he'll definitely have to be replaced, but the rest of them I haven't decided yet. I don't really like the possibility of maybe extra strain having been on them with the main failure or that one. Honestly, I'm surprised that rod didn't break or something, because yeah, I mean, for a big old diesel engine like this to just lock up, that's pretty impressive, because typically that's when you get the hole in the side of the block, is something like that'll spin, and then the next thing you'll do is snap that con rod, because the bottom of that wants to stay still, but this wants to keep moving, because the injectors and valve train and all these other cylinders are still trying to rotate that crank. And yeah, this being stationary and not being moving causes a break, and then this just flops around in the bottom end and out she comes. So he's lucky that didn't happen, because then he'd be buying a used runner for sure. So this way he can still have something pretty good. I mean, personally, if it was me, I'd probably get a used runner. Just do a bottom end on it and do a valve set. I'd probably do a water pump or something to be on the safe side. But anyway, this is it. This is my skid steer here. I'd like to do some maintenance on it. It's got a lift cylinder leaking here. The lift cylinder hoses are leaking, kind of making a mess back there. And then it's got this other issue where, like, it don't matter how cold it is outside, but if I got this parked inside the heated shop, I can run it outside full tilt, hard as I want, and it'll run like a top. Same with summertime. But if you park this thing outside, plugged in, like, it'll start just fine, but you won't be able to give it throttle. Like, if you do, it just shakes so bad and misfires and just runs like complete shit at anything but like a quarter of the way throttled up. So I don't know if, like, it's a pretty basic engine. It's a mechanical injection pump, but it's electronically controlled. So I think what there is a cold start advance on the fuel pump, and I'm thinking maybe it's not shutting off that cold start advance. It's like, that's kind of my best guess, but I don't even really know what that. So anyway, that's gonna about do it for this video. Until that engine comes back from the machine shop, I'll be doing a part 2 of this. So yeah, we'll get that truck back up and running here eventually. I don't know, I've never had a block to the machine shop, so I don't know how long they're gonna take on it. And I do apologize for not filming more on this thing, but it was just kind of hard to do, you know. And when you got a guy working with you, it just kind of seems like, you know, if we're working together in the shop, I don't want to have the camera going and that. But unfortunately, he's taken off here, so I'm not gonna have to worry about that anymore. So probably will be able to film a little more regularly now. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching if you made it this far, and yeah, I appreciate that. So we'll see you on the next one.